The fourth bestowal. It was at the end of one of the periodic millennial roll calls of Uversa that Michael proceeded to place the government of Nebadon in the hands of Emmanuel and Gabriel. And of course, recalling what had happened in times past following such action, we are prepared to witness Michael's disappearance on his fourth mission of bestowal, and we were not long kept waiting, for he shortly went out upon the Salvington dispatching field and was lost to our view. On the third day after this bestowal disappearance, we observed in the universe broadcast to Uversa this significant news item from the seraphic headquarters of Nebadon. So they're saying they heard this newscast basically from the seraphic, meaning angel, headquarters of Nebadon. So they have a sphere, these seraphim, evidently, a planet that they all come from. And so this was the broadcast. And it was reporting the unannounced arrival of an unknown seraphim, accompanied by a solitary supernafim, I guess. That's how you say it, with another high-ranking angel, basically, and Gabriel of Salvington. This unregistered seraphim qualifies as of the Nebadon order and bears credential from the Uversa Ancients of Days, certified by Emmanuel of Salvington. So what they're saying is a seraphim showed up on this headquarters of the seraphim as a seraphim, and he was accompanied by Gabriel and had credentials certified by Emmanuel in the Ancients of Days, basically saying let him work. Yeah, man. Michael was absent from Salvington during this, the seraphic bestowal, for a period of over 40 standard universe years. During this time, he was attached as a seraphic teaching counselor, what you might denominate a private secretary, to 26 different master teachers functioning on 22 different worlds. So, if I'm reading this correctly, they're saying as a seraphim, he was an angel attached to like 26 different beings on 22 different worlds. His last or terminal assignment was as a counselor and attached to what? I don't want to read that because it'd be confusing. So yeah, he was a seraphim. He functioned as a seraphim. So he's functioned now as a Melchizedek, as a Lanonandek son, as a material son, and now as a seraphim, an angel. That was his fourth bestowal. I'm gonna skip down a little bit. And so it has become forever true concerning angels that their creator and ruler has been, quote, in all points tried and tested in the likeness of seraphic personality, end quote. As these successive bestowals partook increasingly of the nature of the lower forms of universe life, Gabriel became more and more an associate of these incarnation adventures, functioning as the universe liaison between the bestowed Michael and the acting universe ruler Emmanuel. So Gabriel wasn't as involved as he was with this particular mission as he was in some of the earlier ones. Gabriel didn't accompany him. Gabriel didn't have to show up with him when he was a Melchizedek or a Lanonandek son. But they're saying now that he's descending to lower and lower levels, Gabriel is becoming more involved as a liaison between Michael and Emmanuel, who is like a big brother who is entrusted, who pretty much hold it down while Michael is gone. It's a family, bro, that we belong to, essentially. An unfathomably large family, but a family nonetheless. Now has Michael passed through the bestowal experience of three orders of his created universe sons, the Melchizedeks, the Lanonandeks, and the material sons. Next, he condescends to personalize in the likeness of angelic life as a supreme seraphim before turning his attention to the various phases of the ascending careers of his lowest form of will creatures, the evolutionary mortals of time and space. He gonna get him, but we the lowest of the low out here, as far as creation is concerned, in a sense. The fifth bestowal, part 5, the fifth bestowal. A little over 300 million years ago, as time is reckoned on Urantia, we witnessed another of those transfers of universe authority to Emmanuel and observed the preparations of Michael for departure. 300 million years ago, Michael's ready to take off again for his fifth bestowal. 300 million years ago. This occasion was different from the previous ones in that he announced that his destination was Uversa, headquarters of the super universe of Orvanton. In due time, our sovereign departed, but the broadcast of the super universe never made mention of Michael's arrival at the courts of the Ancients of Days. Shortly after his departure from Salvington, there did appear in the Uversa broadcast this significant statement. There arrived today an unannounced and unnumbered ascendant pilgrim of mortal origin from the universe of Nebadon, certified by Emmanuel of Salvington and accompanied by Gabriel of Nebadon. This unidentified being presents the status of a true spirit and has been received into our fellowship. This gonna make sense real soon. If you should visit Uversa today, you would hear the recounting of the days when Eventide sojourned there. This particular and unknown pilgrim of time and space being known on Uversa by that name. And this ascending mortal, at least a superb personality in the exact likeness of the spirit stage of the ascending mortals, lived and functioned on Uversa for a period of 11 years of Orvanton Standard Time. So, just to back up a little bit, I made mention of the fact that we are known as ascendant beings, ascension, coming up. You can come up, you can rise. That's what we are, if you choose. And so, when you do this, this happens. A lot of this takes place initially in the Morancha realm, which is something I've been over before, this intervening embryonic state that your soul resides in before it becomes pure spirit, before you fuse with the adjuster, so to say. It's higher than material, but it's not quite pure spirit. So you in this intervening realm. What they're saying is he showed up as someone who has went as a spirit who's went through that already, but I know it's a little confusing, but this was a descending order of sonship again. So he showed up as a spiritual pilgrim, so to say. That's what they call him. This particular and unknown pilgrim of time and space being known on Uversa by that name, Eventide. I guess this was his name. So he showed up as an already ascendant being, having not necessarily lived life in the flesh yet, though. But he showed up in that form that we eventually get to. Because remember, he's coming down. This shit crazy, man. And this ascending mortal, at least a superb personality in the exact likeness of the spirit stage of the ascending mortals, lived and functioned on Uversa for a period of 11 years of Ovan Standard Time. This being received the assignments and performed the duties of a spirit mortal in common with his fellows from the various local universes of Orvantan. And quote, in all points he was tested and tried, even as his fellows, end quote. And on all occasions he proved worthy of the confidence and trust of his superiors, while he unfailingly commanded the respect and loyal administration of his fellow spirits. On Salvington, we followed the career of this spirit pilgrim with consummate interest, knowing full well by the presence of Gabriel that this unassuming and unnumbered pilgrim spirit was none other than the bestowed ruler of our local universe. The first appearance of Michael incarnated in the role of one stage of mortal evolution was an event which thrilled and enthralled all Nebadon. They're saying something very significant, man. And I know, like, this is so new. And if you rock with this in time, this will all make sense. You know, it'll start to sink in. And, you know, your perspective is just broadened by what you belong to. But what they are saying is that all of Nebadon, this local universe, was watching this like, oh man, he's a spirit with the rest of these other spirits. Like, he came all the way down to this level of being. Like, it's a big deal. We had heard of such things, but now we beheld them. He appeared on Uversa as a fully developed and perfectly trained spirit mortal, and as such continued his career up to the occasion of the advancement of a group of ascending mortals to Havana. So, right when the rest of this group he was a part of was about to take off all the way to Havana, he departed. Not until the completion of this bestowal did it finally dawn upon us that Michael was probably going to incarnate in the likeness of his various orders of universe personalities, from the highest Melchizedeks right on down to the mortals of flesh and blood on the evolutionary worlds of time and space. So since he became that ascending mortal spirit, they're like, dang, he might end up even being immortal in this whole bestowal process. Because again, this is a universe he's created and they're watching like a lot. We're quarantined. This planet is quarantined. So we don't know nothing about, like, we just ain't in on this information and all the happenings that are taking place in this universe we belong to, thanks to Caligastia. So we out the loop. But this is what happens. And so this whole universe was watching Michael as he was going through these successive bestowal missions. And now it's really dawning on them like, damn, he gonna go all the way down to a mere mortal being. Like, they can't wait to watch this unfold. It's that big a deal. Let me say that again. Yeah, not until the completion of this bestowal did it finally dawn upon us that Michael was probably going to incarnate in the likeness of his various orders of universe personalities, from the highest Melchizedeks right on down to the mortals of flesh and blood on the evolutionary worlds of time and space. About this time, the Melchizedek colleges began to teach the probability of Michael sometime incarnating as a mortal of the flesh, and there occurs much speculation as to the possible technique of such an inexplicable bestowal that Michael had in person performed in the role of an ascending mortal lent new and added interest to the whole scheme of creature progression all the way up through both the local universe and the super universe. Still, the technique of these successive bestowals remained a mystery. Even Gabriel confesses that he does not comprehend the method whereby this paradise son and universe creator could, at will, assume the personality and live the life of one of his own subordinate creatures. Stuff like that just let me know this real, man. It's something to this. And what they're telling you is like high beings, it's like we still marvel at God's ways. 6. The sixth bestowal. Now that all Salvington was familiar with the preliminaries of an impending bestowal, Michael called the sojourners on the headquarters planet together and, for the first time, unfolded the remainder of the incarnation plan, announcing that he was soon to leave Salvington for the purpose of assuming the career of a Morancha mortal at the cohorts of the Most High Fathers and the headquarters planet of the fifth constellation. And then we heard for the first time the announcement that his seventh and final bestowal would be made on some evolutionary world in the likeness of mortal flesh. So he was like, yeah, I'm finna go down to another planet. I'm finna be, well, to like a mansion world, and I'm gonna be a Morancha being, which is the next step after a human being. If you survive, you go into the Morancha realm and you start to ascend and train, so to say, on mansion worlds. So that's what people who make the choice to survive after this planet, you go on to mansion worlds in a Morancha form. So he said, yeah, I'm finna be a Morancha being. And after that, my last and final bestowal is gonna be on an evolutionary planet. And I'm gonna be immortal. And they're like, mouth open. Before leaving Salvington for the sixth bestowal, Michael addressed the assembled inhabitants of the sphere and departed in full view of everyone, accompanied by a lone seraphim and the bright and morning star of Nebadon. The bright and morning star is Gabriel. While the direction of the universe had again been entrusted to Emmanuel, there was a wider distribution of administrative responsibilities. Michael appeared on the headquarters of Constellation 5 as a full-fledged Morancha mortal of ascending status. I regret that I am forbidden to reveal the details of this unnumbered Morancha mortal's career, for it is one of the most extraordinary and amazing epochs in Michael's bestowal experience, not even excepting his dramatic and tragic sojourn on Urantia. But among the many restrictions imposed upon me in accepting this commission is one which forbids my undertaking to unfold the details of this wonderful career of Michael as the Morancha mortal of Indantum. I don't know how you say that. That's the name of this particular sphere that he was a Morancha being on. Morancha again. This is the next level after us, mortals. If you survive. But they can't go into detail. He's got restrictions on that. It's a trip, man. When Michael returned from this Morancha bestowal, it was apparent to all of us that our Creator had become a fellow creature, that the universe sovereign was also the friend and sympathetic helper of even the lowest form of created intelligence in his realms. We had noted this progressive acquirement of the creature's viewpoint in universe administration before this, for it had been gradually appearing, but it became more apparent after the completion of the Morancha mortal bestowal, even still more so after his return from the career of the carpenter's son on Urantia. So, I mean, it's blowing the universe's mind, as it should, that the creator, son of this universe, is just like you in every way. Like, he's been through what you've been through. He knows about it. He's lived that. He's experienced that. And that's what's so important about his mission on this earth. And man, I know I've said like, oh man, this is a big deal. This is important. This is amazing. Like, I don't even wanna I ain't even gonna put no words on this. We were informed in advance by Gabriel of the time of Michael's release from the Morancha bestowal, and accordingly, we arranged a suitable reception on Salvington. Millions upon millions of beings were assembled from the constellation headquarters worlds of Nebadon, and a majority of the sojourners on the worlds adjacent to Salvington were gathered together to welcome him back to the rulership of his universe. In response to our many addresses of welcome and expressions of appreciation of a sovereign so vitally interested in his creatures, he only replied, I have simply been about my father's business. I am only doing the pleasure of the paradise sons who love and crave to understand their creatures. But from that day down to the hour when Michael embarked upon his Urantia adventure as the Son of Man, all Nebadon continued to discuss the many exploits of their sovereign ruler as he functioned on Indanitum as the bestowal incarnation of a Morancha mortal of evolutionary ascension. Essentially, what he did as this Morancha mortal on this particular sphere was all the talk of the universe for a while. 7. The seventh and final bestowal. For tens of thousands of years, we all look forward to the seventh and final bestowal of Michael. Gabriel had taught us that this terminal bestowal would be made in the likeness of mortal flesh, but we were wholly ignorant of the time, place, and manner of this culminating adventure. The public announcement that Michael had selected Urantia as the theater for his final bestowal was made shortly after we learned about the default of Adam and Eve, and thus, for more than 35,000 years, your world occupied a very conspicuous place in the councils of the entire universe. There was no secrecy, and they got in parentheses, aside from the incarnation mystery, connected with any step in the Urantia bestowal, from first to last, up to the final and triumphant return of Michael to Salvington as Supreme Universe Sovereign. There was the fullest universe publicity of all that transpired on your small but highly honored world. So, they knew for like 30 something thousand years that that Michael was going to come to this planet, because he chose this planet not too long after Adam and Eve defaulted. And they say this was out in the open, where other times prior it was kind of a little more secretive. Being a Melchizedek, he just kind of disappeared one day, and it's not really known. It's mysterious. There's questions surrounding that, but everybody speculates that was him. Anyway, all that to say, all of this that he was going to be a mortal of the realm was, wide open. Wasn't no mystery. And that made this like a planet that beings throughout the universe took an interest in, because Michael is about to go to that planet. Like, this is a huge deal. While we believe that this would be the method, um, we never knew until the time of the event itself that Michael would appear on Earth as a helpless infant of the realm. Theretofore had he always appeared as a fully developed individual of the personality group of the bestowal selection, and it was a thrilling announcement which was broadcast from Salvington, telling that the babe of Bethlehem had been born on Urantia. Like, damn, man. We then not only realized that our creator and friend was taking the most precarious step in all his career, apparently risking his position and authority on this bestowal as a helpless infant, but we also understood that his experience in this final and mortal bestowal would eternally enthrone him as the undisputed and supreme sovereign of the universe of Nebadon. For a third of a century of Earth time, all eyes in all parts of this local universe were focused on Urantia. All intelligences realized that the last bestowal was in progress, and as we had long known of the Lucifer rebellion in Satania and of the Caligastia disaffection on Urantia, we well understood the intensity of the struggle which would ensue when our ruler condescended to incarnate on Urantia in the humble form and likeness of mortal flesh. So, again, man, beings throughout the universe, this local universe that Michael created 400 billion years ago, are watching what is taking place on our little tiny planet, because he chose to come here for his seventh and final bestowal mission. And they know the backstory, like, dang, he went to a planet in a system that, had a rebellion. They knew about the Lucifer rebellion. They knew about Caligastia's betrayal. So they know it ain't no planetary prince here who's in righteous charge. So it's adding to the drama. It's like a thrilling, real live drama taking place. And I mean, I don't know, bro. We can't even understand the magnitude on the level we come from, really. Joshua ben Joseph, or Yahshua for all you sticklers out there. The Jewish baby was conceived and was born into the world just as all other babies before and since, except that this particular baby was the incarnation of Michael of Nebadon, a divine son of paradise and the creator of all this local universe of things and beings. And this mystery of the incarnation of deity within the human form of Jesus, otherwise of natural origin on the world, will forever remain unsolved, even in eternity. You will never know the technique and method of the incarnation of the Creator in the form and likeness of his creatures. That is the secret of Sonarrington. And that's a realm or a sphere, rather, around paradise that centers on the Son, the eternal Son. Father, Son, and Spirit, man, is Trinity. And so Narrington is a sphere around paradise dedicated to the Son. All that to say, they're basically saying you'll never know the technique of how Michael was able to be born as an infant. Like, you just won't. Certain wise men of earth knew of Michael's impending arrival. This is interesting. Through the contacts of one world with another, these wise men of spiritual insight learned of the forthcoming bestowal of Michael on Urantia. And the seraphim did, through the midway creatures, make announcement to a group of Chaldean priests whose leader was Ardnan. These men of God visited the newborn child. These are the three wise men they're speaking of. The only supernatural event associated with the birth of Jesus was this announcement to Ardnan and his associates by the seraphim of former attachment to Adam and Eve in the first garden. What they're saying is that this leader of some Chaldeans at this time was informed that the Son of God was going to come to this planet. And this happened by way of an angel, a seraphim. And this particular angel was Solania, the one who was attached to Adam and Eve at the garden. And she made this announcement through a midway creature. That's what they saying. Jesus' human parents were average people of their day and generation, and this incarnated Son of God was thus born of woman and was reared in the ordinary manner of the children of that race and age. The story of Michael's sojourn on Urantia, the narrative of the mortal bestowal of the Creator Son on your world, is a matter beyond the scope and purpose of this narrative. Well, FYI, they got a whole section dedicated to his life on Earth. And I never said this before. And in case you haven't, you might have rocked with all these episodes. I don't know. You might not even seen this for yourself. Who knows? Whatever. These papers are broken down into 4 parts. The first part is called the Central and Super Universes. The second part is called the Local Universe. The third part is called the History of Urantia. The fourth part is called the Life and Teachings of Jesus. So this whole thing's about to shift basically because I'm finna deal with this fourth part, the Life and Teachings of Jesus, Michael's life on this planet. So they were just saying like, we not finna get into it right now. We got a whole section dedicated to this. And man, it's life changing. 8. Michael's post bestowal status. After Michael's final, and I'm only gonna read but a little bit of this because it get deep off into spiritual politics, but they're really talking about now, like Michael, since he's completed his 7th bestowal, which was on our planet, what his status is now. After Michael's final and successful bestowal on Urantia, he was not only accepted by the Ancients of Days as sovereign ruler of Nebadon, but he was also recognized by the Universal Father as the established director of the local universe of his own creation. Upon his return to Salvington, this Michael, the Son of Man and the Son of God, was proclaimed the settled ruler of Nebadon. From Uversa came the eighth proclamation of Michael's sovereignty, while from Paradise came the joint pronouncement of the Universal Father and the Eternal Son, constituting this union of God and man, sole head of the universe, and directing. It gets a little deep, man. But after he finished up on this planet, it was a big deal, and all sovereignty was conferred upon him. He is now the rightful ruler of this local universe that he created because he's completed his seventh and final bestowal, which took place on our planet almost a little more than 2,000 years ago. So, I'm gonna say this real quick. It required almost 1 billion years of Urantia time to complete the bestowal career of Michael and to effect the final establishment of his supreme authority in the universe of his own creation. Michael was born a creator, educated and administrative, trained and executive, but he was required to earn his sovereignty by experience. And thus has your little world become known throughout all Nebadon as the arena wherein Michael completed the experience which is required of every Paradise Creator son before he is given unlimited control and direction of the universe of his own making. As you ascend the local universe, you will learn more about the ideals of the personalities concerned in Michael's previous bestowals. So yeah, again, it gets a little thick with the politics. Um, so some of this is above our pay grade right now. I'm just gonna skip to the end. Urantia is the sentimental shrine of all Nebadon. Yo, this is our planet, Urantia. And because he completed his seventh and final bestowal, which gave him full authority of this local universe that he runs, this was huge. Urantia is the sentimental shrine of all Nebadon, the chief of 10 million inhabited worlds, the mortal home of Christ Michael, sovereign of all Nebadon, a Melchizedek minister to the realms, a system savior, an Adamic redeemer, a seraphic fellow, an associate of ascending spirits, a Morancha progressor, a son of man in the likeness of mortal flesh, and the planetary prince of Urantia. He was all these things. He's been all these things. And your record tells the truth when it says that this same Jesus has promised sometime to return to the world of his terminal bestowal, the world of the cross. That's what they call this. Looking down, they watched it all unfold and they were horrified, horrified by what took place in this planet, what we did to this creator son. Hey, but we about to get into it, man. I'm finna talk about his life on this planet, bro, and hey man, you gonna see. You gonna see. I'm gonna close this out. This is what they say in the end. Like I said, this is 4 parts. This was the end. Even though I didn't start from the beginning, I'm just saying these papers were broken up into 4 parts. And so this is the end of that 3rd part the history of Urantia, our planet, because they just setting it up for the fourth part, the life and teachings of Jesus. But it says at the end, this paper depicting the 7 bestowals of Christ Michael is the 63rd of a series of presentations sponsored by numerous personalities, narrating the history of Urantia down to the time of Michael's appearance on earth in the likeness of mortal flesh. When they said 63rd, it was 63 papers in the history of Urantia, its third part of these papers. These papers were authorized by a Nebadon Commission of 12 acting under the direction of Montusia Melchizedek. We indicted these narratives and put them in the English language by a technique authorized by our superiors in the year AD 1935 of Urantia time. That's it.